In the work I do with couples around communication, one of the things that they never talked about in grad school, but which I see consistently, like almost all the time, is a tendency for couples, especially as they move into family, career, etc., beginning to not make time for each other. It seems like a small thing at the beginning, but the truth is relationship needs effort. Relationship needs time. And couples have a distressing tendency to rob time from the relationship and to some extent themselves to deal with everything else. At the beginning of a relationship, it's easy. You've got plenty of time, you're dating, even if you're already in a career, there's still just you and the relationship and the career. But as you begin to move into a relationship, it takes more time. If you stay just at the dating level and maybe never move in, that might not be a problem, but most of us then commit to some sort of cohabitation. Now we're roommates. We move in together, and now there's chores and regular dinners together and time spent together. And at the same time, we still have our work and whatever else we're doing. And heaven forbid we have kids, which completely suck up our time the way they're supposed to. But in that progression, advancing in our career and dealing with our family or in-laws, or there's 100 things that can take our time. We tend to sacrifice the time that we gave to the relationship very naturally at the beginning to those other needs. And as a result, the relationship suffers. Isn't that strange? And as time goes on, communication falters. We're not talking about our stuff. We're not processing difficult conversations. We're not having necessary arguments. We're not dealing with issues that have been surfacing and we keep pushing to one side because there's no time. Not to mention any, quality time together, a night out, chance to just sit and talk or take a long walk together, let alone, physical and romantic intimacy. And before you know it, the relationship is really suffering because it's not getting nurtured. It's not getting the time and energy and effort it needs to be healthy. And this corrodes at people, but a lot of us don't see it. We begin to see communication problems. We begin to experience what seem like stupid fights or, hangry moments, and we call it all kinds of things, but we don't think, wow, I'm not giving this relationship the time it requires. And too often, bitterness, unresolved arguments, resentment, hurt, anger stacks up, and that just drives people further apart. So what do you got to do? Well, you got to make time. I mean, at one level, you can stop watching the video right here because what's required is you've got to make deliberate time for what came easy at the beginning. What does that look like? Well, it's all the things you do when you're first with somebody. You talk about what's happening with you. You talk about issues you're facing at work or with your family or challenges you're looking at, in the future. You say what's on your mind. You talk about your feelings. And even those of us that aren't particularly trained to talk about our feelings actually do some of that when we're first dating, when we're first in a relationship. But then other habits take over. Again, we get too busy, etc. Not to mention what your needs are. What are you looking for now? What's changing for you? What are you missing? What would be better? And of course, that's all true for your partner, true. They need to have permission to have those conversations with you. That can be hard at the beginning of this new effort to be in touch because, like I referenced earlier, there is the risk of anger, hurt, resentment, bitterness, frustration. So, on top of needing to make time for the relationship, probably there's going to be a need to some extent to deal with the crap that's accumulated in the relationship, in the communication channel up to this point, which makes it even more challenging. Doesn't make it any less necessary, however. And we're not talking about a lot of time. If it's not so much crap in the channel that you can't begin to do this, some of it's just making a little bit of time. A half an hour, 45 minutes at the beginning. That's not occupied with kids. I know that sounds crazy. It's not consumed by work and texts from work. It's not consumed by all the other things that can take up our time, but is deliberately crafted to be with our partner. It's going to need more than that. It's not going to just be half an hour, 45 minutes. If you remember when you were dating or first together with somebody, you made real time for them. You deliberately carved time out of your day. Those needs don't change. And in case that feels overwhelming at the beginning, it is. But some of this is prioritizing. And yes, it's even possible with kids. If there's too much crap in the channel, you may have to deal with the crap first. People like me can help with that. There's other ways to come at it. but the priority becomes communication, making time for each other and being able to spend time together to nurture that relationship, to remind yourselves why the heck you were together in the first place. And too often that corrosion of time to other obligations is a slow bleed on a relationship that really matters. Thanks.